Fallout 76. A game I would place high on the list of rockiest starts, with the release being plagued with bugs, glitches, exploits, and, let's be honest, terrible gameplay. I went ahead and dropped 100 hours into Fallout 76 to check on how it's been developed over the years and if it's come to a point where it deserves that original $60 price tag. I'll be scoring 76 based on 4 factors I believe a multiplayer RPG should have: combat, story and lore, social engagement, and system intuitiveness. Fallout 76 over the years has held on to a small little community. Over time, it's received a solid number of updates and reworks, clearing up lots of bugs and increasing stability across the board. Plenty of people also stuck around and weathered the storm, as you'll see by the ridiculously high-leveled people randomly exploring the wasteland. You'll be happy to know there's NPCs now, because that was something that wasn't in the original release of the game. The story is there is no story. In fact, there's plenty of them. For quests, vending, and plenty of that juicy dialogue. To skip, of course. The quests overall are enjoyable, and outside of the occasional maze building, pretty simple to figure out. Most quests end up being go here and kill this thing, which tend to be my favorite type of easy straightforwardness. The perk system at first can seem a little overwhelming, but at level 50 you can just pick whatever card you want, removing the dependency for the first 50 levels of getting the packs. It's actually a really smart system, and you can swap between 3 different builds of your choice at these little card stands you find at different points of interest. As an RPG nerd, one of my favorite things naturally is costumes, so in any RPG I play, it's something that I collect. I was happy to find many different types of apparel in 76, from very common clothing and suits to goofy little things like tinfoil hats and a clown costume. Apparel itself tends to weigh pretty much nothing, so you can easily carry a few outfits on you at a time, and all the rest you can slap in your stash back at your camp. I will say one thing I noticed quite frequently was that I was always over-encumbered. No matter how many points I put into strength, it wouldn't even put a scratch on what I was looting. My character's essentially doing 10 squats per level, and I'm expecting him to carry 15 miniguns. One solid building, and I am easily 4 times overweight, slow walking from place to place begging for a bench. There is a good few cards you can pick up that reduce the weight of items, but I didn't find them to make much of a difference, honestly. After almost every quest or small exploration of an interior, I found myself scrounging around for a bench or like a stash so I could place my scrap into it. Vendors aren't necessarily everywhere either. There's a few traveling ones, but mostly you find them in like main towns or at the railroad stations, so it can sometimes be a long time before you get to one. There's a pretty solid number of builds you can find for the characters on the community forums as well, but piecing your own together honestly isn't that bad either. All the damage bonuses are pretty much coordinated to the type of weapon you're using, like semi-auto rifles, automatic rifles, heavy guns, etc. There's a good few you can stack together too to really maximize damage bonuses for everything. It ends up working out really well. Even further, the legendary equipment has some pretty wild bonuses you can gain, like the bloody tagged items are somewhat of a fan favorite, basically increasing the damage that you output to enemies by how little health you have. So you'll see certain people in the world rad stacking so that they have a very low amount of health and can just output massive damage with a minigun. It's pretty nice. One change I was pretty upset about was the Bobbleheads. They basically just give you a timed stat buff now instead of a permanent increase to the stat it applies to. In previous Fallout games, even after you maxed your point increased strength at 10, you could find several items that would push you past that threshold. There is some perk cards that allow for this, but I haven't noticed much gear actually applying extra stats, and with the Bobbleheads being changed, at least tanks a stat point in every single category. In late game, however, this does become less noticeable. Learning what POIs have stashes and benches become very helpful. There is little watchtower type buildings you can find around the map as well that when you go to the top of them, you can discover most of the POIs in the area, so that's really helpful. I've also noticed all Red Rocket gas stations have at least a stash and a bench, and basically any POI inhabited by a humanoid creature will have a bench, so super mutants and even some ghoul areas. I've noticed a lot of scorched areas will have benches as well, so they're not scarce. It's just it seems that way when you don't know a lot about the map. There is a food and water gauge that depletes over time, but I haven't noticed a major benefit to keeping it full at all. And an update that came out a while back called Steel Dawn completely removed the negative benefits to having the lack of attention towards the system. So you can pretty much just walk around fully starving and dehydrated with little consequence outside of a pop-up on the left side of your screen every couple of minutes. Enemy variety is pretty normal to previous Fallout games with the several additions and maybe some lack thereof. Specific POIs or events will also have some exotic creature types that you can go and kill. You can pretty much expect normal Fallout type creatures. There is plenty of weapons reminiscent of the Fallout games with additions like the flintlock weapon line or the Gatling plasma, both of which are extremely dangerous. Fire! Expeditions are also somewhat of a recent addition to the game, offering some new areas and a different type of like questing content. It's more mission focused. You kind of fly in and land and do a whole quest thing inside of a specific area that you can't leave. As far as I'm aware, they're infinitely repeatable as well. They do have some exotic enemy types sometimes. I've only played one of the two and it did, so I assume they both might. Overall, I feel like they're a pretty enjoyable and good addition to the game. At the moment, there is the pit in Atlantic City that you can go to. I've only played Atlantic City. It was pretty enjoyable when I went through it, with some hitches. However, playing through the expedition did give me a ton of experience and ammo that was extremely helpful. I do, however, wish there was more social interaction capabilities in the game, like maybe a text chat or a clan system with something going on there. Something to make the world feel like it's more multiplayer. There is public events and stuff like that that you can do with people in like public groups, but you don't really see your teammates in your public group outside of when you're doing the events that you sign up to the group for, or maybe in passing in a town for like 10 seconds. Like there's no real connection to the people that you're playing the game with. They're kind of just there as an entity that shoots bullets. There is an emote system, but outside of the people that are playing with me from my chat, I've never actually had anybody emote to me. I think maybe one guy did it as a thank you during a bigger monster fight one time, but it's kind of just dead. I feel like that one of the main attractions to 76 when it was coming out was the fact that it had multiplayer. Having those systems lack so hard in basic features just kind of defeats it being a multiplayer game. However, I will say when you're in a group of 4 fighting a big boss monster or an army of enemies, it does feel really good and you get to see firsthand how team members affect the game overall. It's really just the communication factor that sucks in this scenario, and I think clans, although something that really isn't needed, is something that could be a cool feature. People could have matching names or something, or match outfits together, and it would bring a sense of belonging to the game as well as a sense of camaraderie. One of my favorite things is playing with friends, so making it more social would add something. The ability that 76 gives you to grind atoms is amazing. Most games lock everything behind a paywall these days, so for the fact that 76 allows you to just complete achievements and grind out their cash shop money is phenomenal. I think time is a perfectly equal trade to money, so there's a huge acceptance in my mind that they're like, play our game and we'll give you this, and that's the end of things right there. That's good. That's a 1-to-1. You receive this currency too by doing just random daily challenges like kill 10 ghouls or fight a mole rat, you know what I mean? Like it's something so simple and you'll just see it pop up on the left side of your screen. There is some pretty decent skins and camp decor inside of the item shop as well that you can just grind up. There's also lunch boxes which give you an EXP boost and some other like pay to win type stuff, but the fact that you can grind it for free kind of just eases the hatred for the pay to win in my mind. I don't understand it, but it's there. In the end, I'm pretty impressed with how far 76 has come, and I'm kind of excited to see what extra things get added from here. At the moment, I know there's a new region on the horizon, which I expect will bring some cool stuff. Enemies maybe and some outfits, hopefully. I know the region is live on the test server, but I have not played it myself. I've read up on it and I've watched a couple videos, but by no means did I do a deep dive just so I could save myself some of the cool stuff and not spoil the whole update, you know what I mean? I'm personally not good at replaying games most of the time, so when I go into new releases, I go into the idea with only playing them once. It kind of saves me the disappointment in case I do hope to replay a game and then it sucks like Kirby at a dinner party. Overall, I'm going to give Fallout 76 a solid 6 out of 10 Krabby Patties. It has good features that are mostly intuitive, a good amount of exploration and lore, traditional Fallout style combat which I know and love, and it culls an itch for a solid RPG game in 2024. By category, I'd give combat a 6 out of 10, story and lore I'd give a 7 out of 10, social engagement I would score a 3 out of 10, and system intuitiveness I'd score an 8 out of 10. The combat is good, but it isn't anything special. It's the same Fallout style combat we've basically had forever, with a pretty nerfed form of the VAT system. I will say not having a better PvP system affected this score pretty severely. There is PvP in a sense, but it's pretty much a shell of a system with no real use outside of cap grinding, and caps are pretty much useless after level 30. The story itself can leave much to be desired, but the lore found around the world explaining small bits is what makes me give it a 7 out of 10. There is so many notes and journals and pages and PC entries all over the place. You could spend just as much time reading in this game as you could spend playing the whole game. Social engagement ranks low for lack of text chat, lack of any extended community groups like factions, clans, guilds, etc., and lack of objectives that require multiple participants. Almost everything in 76 can be done solo, which is somewhat good, especially since Fallout used to be a single-player game. However, as a multiplayer adaptation, I find it to be sort of half-assed to not add in more things that require a community's participation. There is a few larger raid boss type creatures you can find or summon, but they give no specific benefit to killing outside of a small achievement maybe, or piece of legendary gear that you can just get from an easier event. System intuitiveness gets an 8 out of 10 in regards to the game being an overall enjoyably straightforward experience. Quests are mostly not overly complicated, and doing things in the world gives you a sense of progression at most times. The perk card system is basically learned with a glance, and when you start getting cards fully maxed out, you notice a difference almost immediately. Honestly, the only reason this category didn't get a full 10 out of 10 is because I can remember several situations where I would walk around for hours just trying to find my objective. Normally it would be in some sort of quest where I'm in an interior and I can't pull up a map for the location to go see where I am. Also, the quest marker doesn't show up unless I'm close enough to it, so I would just end up walking down random hallways for what seemed like hours until I finally found a little blip pop up on my map. Even when I was recording this video, I played the Atlantic City expedition just so that I could experience it before I talked about them, and I got lost for like 45 minutes trying to find the community center because there was just no marker until I walked down a specific alleyway on the map. Overall though, I think it's a fun experience, and I do recommend going back and playing the game if you haven't in a while, or maybe even pick it up on like a weekend sale or something when it's really cheap. Bethesda did a great job investing time and energy into the game and polishing out something that was enjoyable from, I mean, let's be honest, the original piece of crap that it came out as. I'll still be playing the game in my spare time, trying to grind out my nice little house next to the Halloween shop, while also leveling away at that infinite level cap. If you do try 76 again, I hope you have a similarly good experience. I played it with several of my viewers and we all had a great time, so try it with some friends maybe. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. Hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, stay safe, stay sexy, and stay squishy.